video, we're going to be taking a look at the newly released Transformers Netflix War for Cybertron trilogy, Battlefield Decepticon Sparkless Seeker, a figure which I'm pretty certain you all know is one that I have been really looking forward to, and out of the entire Wave 3 Netflix assortment, this guy definitely appears to be the best. Now, unfortunately, Sparkless Seeker does mark the end for the current Netflix lineup. Of course, this figure is being released in order to coincide with Kingdom, which is the third and final chapter of the War for Cybertron trilogy, so unfortunately the future of these Netflix packs is a little uncertain at this current point, although I personally would love to see a Wave 4, although this time perhaps a little more akin to what we got with Wave 2, where we got some new sculpts and of course some new head sculpts. But nevertheless, taking a look here at the packaging, you can see we've got a really awesome window view display here of the Sparkless Seeker with some of his Micromasters or Battle Masters. I think these guys are Micromasters. We've got War for Cybertron trilogy, Decepticon Sparkless Seeker. I absolutely love the paint deco on Sparkless Bot, so I'm really excited to see what this guy looks like out of package. We can see there a really awesome image of the Seeker. As we spin around here to the back, we've got Sparkless Seeker in robot mode, as well as here in Tetrajet mode, Sparkless Singe, as well as Sparkless Caliburst, and it will be really nice to actually get some blast effects, as unfortunately for Kingdom, these are rather scarce, at least in the main line. And as we take a look here towards the side, we've got that fantastic Netflix War for Cybertron trilogy Kingdom artwork with Transformers more than meets the eye here at the top. So without further ado, let's crack this open and add yet another Transformers Siege Tetrajet Seeker to my collection. And so here we have Sparkless Seeker, and the figure was certainly not what I was expecting. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't mean the figure is bad by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I actually really love what Takara Tomy and Hasbro have done here with the colour variation, but upon seeing some of the promo images and the name Sparkless Seeker, I was definitely expecting a colour deco which would be more or less identical to what we got here with Sparkless Bot. Now, with Sparkless Bot, of course, it was a lot more rusty. It really gave you the impression that this was a dilapidated and deceased, almost zombified Decepticon, but with Sparkless Seeker, he really does just look like a regular Seeker. Perhaps this could be a Netflix interpretation of Acid Storm, I have no idea, but it's just the figure does not really resemble some of the Seekers that we saw in that Sea of Rust scene from Transformers Siege. But nevertheless, taking a look here at the colour deco, you can see here that for the most part, the entire figure has been completely cast out of this very awesome, militaristic, almost army camo green, and I really love how it looks. It definitely helps to set this Seeker apart from pretty much any of the previously released Siege Seekers, and I absolutely love all of the sculpted in detailing. You can see here we've got all of the different turbines there. I also think that the colour variation here to the front cockpit is the best we've seen so far. I absolutely love how this looks. It looks very reflective and really does appear as if though it is glass in material. As we turn our attention here to this section, we've got a very nice brown fade, and taking a look here towards the arms, you can once again see that same brown fade, but like I mentioned, there really isn't anything sparkless about this particular character. There are no areas of rust. It's more of weathering, such as this section here, which has got a very slight amount of brown applied to it, I guess in order to pick out some of the sharper details of the sculpt. Even spinning around here to the back, the character looks very pristine and very much alive, and that leads me on to my next point, the head sculpt. The head sculpt definitely does not look sparkless by any stretch of the imagination. You can see that this Seeker is in fact happy that he's deceased, so that really is an unusual choice to me. I wish maybe Hasbro and Takara Tomy could have given us a complete brand new head sculpt, but if you were just after adding another generic Seeker to your shelf, this figure could do perfectly well, as honestly, he does look very much alive and well. We of course also get some of these Micromasters, which have got some fantastic looking blast effects. I actually never owned this blast effect prior to this release, so it's awesome to add this purple one here to my collection. I believe we've seen these multiple times. I actually picked this up very recently with the Phantom Strike Squadron Skywarp pack review and unboxing live on the channel. You can see here as we take a look down to the lower sections of the shins, we've got that nice brown highlight where the knee pads are, and the sculpted in detailing on this mold really is fantastic, as so is the overall paintwork. But just once again, there really isn't anything that's sparkless about this particular character. For a paint application comparison, you can see here Sparkless Bot definitely does resemble a zombie in my opinion, whereas Sparkless Seeker is definitely just another generic Decepticon. We also have red painted eyes here for Sparkless Seeker, whereas here for Sparkless Bot, they were indeed this zombified looking purple, which definitely did match what we saw from Transformers Prime when some of the Decepticons were in fact revived by the Dark Energon. So I have no idea as to what Hasbro were thinking in regards to the paint apps. I'm not complaining, it's just I maybe would have liked to have seen this particular variation actually applied onto this mold. Now, if we take a closer look here at the Battle Masters, I really once again love the colour of cast green that this one here has been cast in. I believe this guy is Sparkless Singe. You can see it creates for a very awesome looking weapon, and to transform him is pretty much exactly the same from what you would expect from these guys. So you just pull this lowest section down, of course flip the turret to the back, and we've got some really nice looking paintwork there, and the detail just looks so crisp and precise. I'm not sure if that's down to the new colour of green that they have used, but it really does look very, very sharp and really awesome. Of course, we've got some silver here in the low region with some red eyes, and articulation is as follows: ball joints here at the arms, and of course here at the legs. Taking a look here at Sparkler's Caliburst, this guy's really cool, although his colour scheme is a little bit questionable for me. I maybe would have liked to have seen it cast in the same green as the figure, and of course what we got with Singe, it is more of just a generic grey plastic, but it looks quite cool here as a weapon. We do have an asymmetrical design, and I think this is the guy that came actually with Hotlink, who was in Wave 1 of the Netflix assortment. So just to very quickly transform him up into robot mode, and of course snap that there. This is my least favourite one. I think he's very generic looking. You can see just grey arms there with a grey painted torso and a red visor. As far as articulation is concerned, it is exactly the same as what you would expect. So ball joint there at the head. We do actually get a butterfly joint here for this Seeker, something which the actual Earthrise Seekers do lack. We of course get the rotation, all of the bicep and elbow range of motion in the arms. We get a rotation at the waist, all of that good articulation in the legs, and of course the ankle rocker pivot, which can of course actually rock forwards and backwards. So definitely a really nice Seeker, and despite this being at least the 10th reuse of this mold, all of the joints are very stiff, which is something that can't really be said with Optimus Primal. Please feel free to check out that review if you haven't done so already. So for some additional comparisons, of course here we have Sparkless Bot, and we shall bring in the Decepticon Siege Starscream, just so you can see the differences here. It's exactly the same mold, only this time of course with a little more of a darker green colour motif, and I do believe the head sculpt is taken directly from Siege Thundercracker with the smirk, than as opposed to the more stern expression that we got here with Starscream. So definitely a really nice looking repaint. I do love all of the colour that we get here. The green looks awesome, the brown here for the cockpit and the brown highlights look wicked, but as far as Sparkless is concerned, no, I don't really think so. Maybe if they could have painted the eyes purple, I maybe would have believed it a little better, but the expression certainly isn't selling it for me, nor is the overall colour scheme. So without further ado, we'll transform him up into the Tetrajet Alt mode. Much like I've mentioned in the Optimus Primal review, I shall very quickly skim through this as I have already showcased this transformation multiple times on my channel. So let's transform our Sparkless Seeker. So here we have the Sparkless Seeker fully transformed up into his really cool Cybertronian Tetrajet alternate mode, and much like robot mode, this figure isn't so much sparkless and is more just a green, really awesome militaristic looking Decepticon Seeker. Taking a look here at some of the sharper details of the sculpt, I do believe that this is in fact one of the first clean Siege Seeker molds that we have ever gotten. There is no battle damage at all, and it really does look impressive. You can see the Decepticon insignia is indeed battle worn with some really nice scratched detailing. We of course have that black singed effect here to the wings, which we've seen on many of these Netflix figures, and I love the metallic green that we've got here. You can see how weathered this particular piece is. We've got a much lighter shade of green that does blend into the darker green, obviously to give you the impression that this particular section here is faded. We once again have that really awesome gold cockpit, which isn't as convincing as the faux cockpit that we got in robot mode, but nevertheless it still does look awesome. Some nice vent detailing here at the top, as well as that brown paint application, and a really nice brown fade here on the tip of the actual nose cone with a very dark singed effect here at the front. Of course we've got the null rays here on either side, and the sculpt work for these looks very impressive, and that really is all I can say here for the Tetrajet Alt mode. For the most part it is very clean, which is something that you wouldn't necessarily expect for a character of which is supposed to be sparkless. You can take any of the blast effects, so here I have in fact got the Sparkless Bot shooting out perhaps some Energon bodily fluid, as it is green and looks really grotesque when actually posed alongside this particular colour deco, but you could take these and put them into some of the thrusters in order to give you the thruster effect. And just for a quick sparkless comparison, you can see here Sparkless Bot and Sparkless Seeker are very different as far as their colorizations are concerned, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. As mentioned, I really do love what they have done here with this repaint. It's just there are some really odd design choices here. Either release a Sparkless Seeker which looks like the Sparkless Bot, or just re-release a generic Seeker such as this guy. I personally may regard him as perhaps a Netflix version of Acid Storm, as of course we do get the green motif for this particular Seeker. It's not a bad figure by any stretch of the imagination and is still one of my favourites, but I do think that out of the entire wave, the Sparkless Bot and the Skelevore that came packaged in the spoiler pack are by far the standouts out of this line. So I would say Sparkless Seeker, Sparkless Bot and Skelevore are the best repaints we've gotten out of wave 3, and I'm really intrigued to see as to whether or not we do in fact actually get a wave 4. I would love to know down in the comment section below on whether or not you agree with my thoughts. Do you think that Sparkless Seeker has got a rather unusual colour choice for a character of which is supposed to be sparkless? Do you like this particular colour choice, or would have you perhaps preferred a colour variation which would better match Sparkless Bot? Please feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. Also be sure to let me know on whether or not you have picked up any of these Netflix figures, and if not, do you plan to do so, or shall you be completely skipping the wave in general? I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Thanks for watching.